The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame, with exciting Vol sports prints now available.
This is The Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates, and by Renewal by Anderson, with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into The Sports Source, presented by Renewal by Anderson. We appreciate you being with us on this May Sunday. There is tons of Tennessee sports to talk about. Big Orange Caravan's going on, so we're going to have a couple of new segments where we react to quotes by Vol leaders that they've made this week. Tons to talk about. Let's just get right into this thing. Our first segment of today's show is brought to you by, of course, Renewal by Anderson. You can get a jump start on summer by taking advantage of Renewal by Anderson's Memorial Day sale all month long. You can buy one window, get another one 30% off, plus a free upgrade to Smart Sun Glass, and 12 months, no money down, no interest. There you finally see it. One window, buy it. You get another one 30% off, plus a free upgrade to Smart Sun Glass, and 12 months, no money down, no interest. Renewal by Anderson, the Memorial Day sale. It's coming up, end of the month. You better get quick, better act on it quick. Renewal by Anderson. All right, want to welcome in the panelists for today. We have Bob Hodge, Ryan Callahan, Mike Strange, Chuck Cavaleris. Thanks for being with us, guys. We have a lot to talk about. I want to start with the tiara that Meghan Markle decided to wear.
That was lovely.
And Harry not shaving the beard while wearing the military. Okay, we're not, no wedding coverage today. But I do want to talk Tennessee football recruiting. The Vols are tearing it up right now. There you go. There you go. They got 7 commitments for the 2019 class already. Added another one this week. That Ryan Callahan predicted on our show on Sunday, I believe. 247sports.com. That's where Ryan works. They rank Tennessee right number 20 nationally with 1 5-star, 3 4-stars, and 3 3-stars. Rivals.com ranks Tennessee number 16th nationally. They've got them higher, but they have 0 5-stars, 3 4-stars, and 4 3-stars. Don't know how that works. Ryan, we'll let you explain this to us. But here's the deal. The reason I want to talk recruiting right off the bat, Joe Rexroad of Gannett, Tennessee. You can read it in the Knoxville News Sentinel, but it's Gannett, Tennessee, I think is what everybody goes by. Joe Rexroad wrote a piece this week about Jeremy Pruitt's strategy on the recruiting trail. He spoke to the national recruiting director for Rivals, who said it's a little bit confusing the way Jeremy Pruitt is handling in-state recruits, meaning he's not coddling and pampering them. Basically, if he sees in-state recruits aren't interested, shuts the door and moves along. He's also being very straightforward with the kids he's talking to. The national director of recruiting for 24/7 Sports said that in the end, this new strategy, if you want to call it new or different, it's all going to be judged as can he get a little bit more out of what he signs than Butch Jones did. Now, my question will start with Ryan here, since you're Mr. Recruiting. Is this a different system? Is this something different, a different strategy? Maybe different from Butch Jones, but is it something altogether new and weird, and should it be confounding people that, oh my gosh, I can't believe what he's doing? Were you confounded?
Not confounded. I think it's just a strange year for Tennessee in-state. I think what you've got is there are a couple of players in Memphis that are definitely priorities for Tennessee, guys committed to other schools, Maurice Hampton and Bill Norton. And then you've got a lot of guys in Middle Tennessee that Tennessee is sort of more on the fence about right now, I think, and still evaluating those guys, trying to get a better feel for them. And then some other people are higher on them, people in the recruiting industry. And I think you mentioned specifically Rivals. I think Rivals is higher on some of those guys than maybe our analysts even at 24/7 Sports are. So I think that's where you see some divided opinions. Jeremy Pruitt and his staff kind of taking the cautious approach, making sure they're certain about those guys. And I think also in-state, I think you're seeing them maybe just not go after players simply because they're in-state. We've talked about that before, but I think it's wanting to make sure you get it right in-state first and foremost and take a careful look at those guys. And this happens to be a year where there are more players they're on the fence about. 2020, next year's class, I don't think that's the case as much. They're really sold on a number of guys in that class.
Any chance, I mean, my guess is the whole being honest with recruits, not overselling them. One recruit was talking about the fact that he told me what I needed to do to improve on. You know, some guys go out there and just, oh, you're the greatest, we need you in school, come on down here. He's being more honest with him. That, to me, I'm guessing that's what Nick Saban does, because Nick Saban can do that. Is there any chance that he might be misjudging the landscape here based upon how Alabama is looked at in the state of Alabama? Does he need to work differently with in-state kids here than he did at Alabama.
I think there maybe was a little bit of an adjustment compared to what he dealt with at Alabama. I think he was maybe used to being at schools where the in-state school can wait to offer, can wait to make an in-state guy a priority and still get him. I think at Tennessee it's a little bit different right now. I think you do have to recruit in-state players a little more aggressively. Not many of them make early decisions the way it's gone the last several years. So I think it is a different approach. I don't know that Jeremy Pruitt and his staff necessarily have to adjust to it, though, because I think you saw Butch Jones and his staff take too many in-state players in some cases and maybe reach too far on guys simply because they were in-state. So I think Pruitt and his staff may veer a little bit the opposite direction, maybe take the same approach they would with players from any other state, and we'll see how it works long term. I think like our guy Steve Wiltfong said, it's going to be about the results in the long run, and if they get them right on the in-state players, no one will be complaining.
And John, one thing I think it's important to point out, and I realized this, when I was covering recruiting for 3 or 4 years, you've got coaches who are very familiar with this region. It's not like you brought in somebody, from the state of Washington, or that they've coached in Florida, they've coached in South Carolina, they've coached in Alabama. So they've got a pretty good idea. A lot of it goes back to how your recruiting board is, how the names fall on your recruiting board. You may have somebody ranked much higher than the kid in Nashville or the kid somewhere else. You may not want him really to have you on his list if you think you can get somebody that's going to help you win sooner.
Whereas I think especially early, Butch Jones, most coaches come in and say, we're going to put up a fence around the state of Tennessee.
Right.
And Butch Jones had that big class because Tennessee at that point, that was the first really big class in the state of Tennessee in years. Now you're getting that kind of bump in Middle Tennessee every year, but that was the first big one. He put such an emphasis on it, he might have taken some kids that were just for the sake of saying we got all of Tennessee, we got these guys. Let me ask you this one, though. Rex Rode suggested, it seemed, that maybe with this honest approach, it might take you longer to get a bunch of 5 stars in there. Butch had those 2 top 5 classes. But these guys may stick around. Butch gave them the big sell, so they transferred out. They may stick because of Jeremy Pruitt's approach. Buy that?
Yeah, I think I do buy it, because if you look back at some of the 5 stars Tennessee got, there was pressure to get them on the field quickly. There was probably pressure that you told the kid he's going to be on the field quickly. And by pointing out to these kids, you've got things to work on. If it's a receiver, you got to run your routes tighter. If it's a DB, you got to open your hips up. I mean, these little things, when they get here, they won't be shocked that there's things that they have to learn. Whereas if Butch's approach, if what you've read was true, he would say, get here, you play, you're the greatest thing ever. Well, then when they had to be coached, didn't like that a whole lot.
The de-recruiting process was very harsh in some cases. So yeah, I think it has paid off. I think in some cases players really appreciate this honesty. I've talked with several guys who've sat down with him and gotten some kind of harsh criticism and said, hey, I like that. I like knowing what a coach is going to do with me when he gets me on campus. He's going to help me get better, and that's intriguing.
I think looking at Jeremy Pruitt's background, Florida State, Georgia, Alabama, he knows how to recruit. He knows what good football players look like. He knows how to evaluate. So get him in here and develop them and keep them. I
just wouldn't. I'm cool with that idea, and I think on the surface, I think your argument rings true that, well, you're honest with them, so they'll be more adjusted when they arrive. But here's the thing. I'm guessing, I said this earlier, and I think we all agree, that Pruitt's probably in the Nick Saban mold in terms of the way he recruits honestly. Nick Saban's, he's not having to go out and promise guys the moon. He's got as many transfers as anyone because kids wind up being, he lost 3 quarterbacks a year ago. As soon as one guy gets named, 3 guys go. So I wouldn't get my hopes up that, oh, well, this will stop all the transfer stuff. I just think that's part of college football these days.
An increasing part of college football these days.
Which is a great lead in. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I agree with that, but the difference is a lot of guys at Alabama are transferring over playing time. You had guys at Tennessee that were playing that were leaving. And I think
That's
it
true.
might be because, hey, you get in here and suddenly a coach is in your face telling you don't do this. What do you mean? 6 months ago, you were telling me I was the greatest guy ever.
One last thought. This summer, it will be interesting to see how this staff deals with camps. Their focus seems to be getting players on campus, evaluating them in person at camps. It'll pay off if they can get guys here, but they want to see guys in person before taking them in some cases. You can do that at a place like Alabama. At Tennessee, can you pull it off as easily? So that'll be worth watching.
Very good. When we come back, let's talk about transfers. Jeremy Pruitt differs from his old boss, Nick Saban, in terms of grad transfers within the conference. We'll discuss all that. Who's right? Who's wrong? Come on back.